Hey everyone, Chrissy here today for Therm O Web, and I'm going to show you how to make these cute cards today. I am using some Brutus Monroe stamps. These are the cutest stamps ever. I love the little boy and girl pirate. So I'm going to show you how I created this card. It's actually really simple, and to create the background I actually use a masking technique as well, which I will show you in a little bit. So the first thing I did is I set up a piece of cardstock. This is going to be my front panel, and it's 4 by 5 1/4. And it's watercolor cardstock. So I just put it in my stamping tool here, and you can see I just kind of lined it up, and then I decided I was going to ink it up with black ink. Now I'm going to watercolor this as well. I felt like watercoloring kind of went well with that picture just because it's like on the ocean and everything like that. If you are familiar with like the no line watercoloring technique where you have no line showing, you don't have to ink it up in black ink. You could use any color that you want. So after I inked it up, I covered it with clear embossing powder and then activated it. This was so I would protect my ink just because I knew I'd be adding a lot of water on it and then hitting it with heat a couple of times. So I just wanted to protect it so it didn't start bleeding. So now I'm actually going to create part of my background on my main card base. So I cut some EASY-CUT adhesive to 4 by 5 1/4. I'm sorry, my main card panel was 3 3/4 by 5. So this is cut, so it's kind of like another panel on there, but instead I stuck it right onto my standard card base. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put some of this Deco foil on it. And I'm burnishing it in with a bone folder. So as I'm doing it, you can see I'm kind of pulling and burnishing, pulling and burnishing. You don't have to use a bone folder. You could just use your hands and stuff. I just think that this presses it down. You basically get like a perfect pull away. It doesn't leave any foil or anything between the EASY-CUT adhesive and the foil. So you get a really pretty look, and that's the shattered glass. So I think it's just so pretty. So now I am going to watercolor. I'm using some watercolor markers, and I'm going to speed this up quite a bit. I just want to talk briefly about how I did this, and then we'll kind of skip ahead. So I use an acrylic black lots of times when I am watercoloring with markers. You can use regular watercolors, or if you have like watercolor pencils, or I mean, you don't even have to use watercolors. You can use any medium that you feel comfortable with. But like I said earlier, I just wanted to use like a watercolor type just because it felt like this should be soft and pretty because it's on the ocean. So I scribble some color onto an acrylic black. If you don't have one of those, even though you probably should if you're a stamper, but you can use like a laminated sheet, or even when you get some stamps, if you peel back like the protective side, it's like an acrylic sheet, you could use that as well. And I use a water brush. You could definitely use a paintbrush with some water. I'm just really familiar with water brushes. I like them because it's all in one, and I feel like I have a lot of control. I'm almost coloring instead of painting, which I really prefer. Don't get me wrong, I like paintbrushes. There is no wrong way to color in anything, no matter what you're using. I mean, you could use crayons for all you want, right? But this is just the technique and the medium that I feel really comfortable with. And it just goes really quick for me because I do it so often. So you can see I'm adding in, basically what I do is I kind of do a bottom coat of the color, and it's usually pretty light. And then I come in and I have more color. I don't dilute it as much with the water. I pick up the color, and then I kind of let the water do the work for me. So I let the water just kind of carry that color. So like on the side of the boat, I wanted that dark, so I added more dark in, and the water just kind of carried it for me and did all the work for me. So with these markers too, if you want to get really dark, you can color directly with the marker. So you have the option of making them really vibrant or really soft, depending if you add a lot of water or if you just go ahead and color direct. So now I'm working on the sky, and I'm just putting a light wash of color on there. And then I'm going to let that dry, hit it with a heat gun, because I have no patience to wait for stuff to dry. I always use the heat gun. So now I'm using this masking paper from Brutus Monroe. And basically what I did is I stamped this cute little image on the masking paper, and then I cut it out, and then I stuck it actually on the back of the protector sheet from the stamp, so I had it for future use. And now I'm going to use it to protect the image. So this way, now when I go ahead and I flick some more color on there, it's not going to get on that stuff that I just colored in. Oh, and the stamp set, by the way, is called Love Sailing. I should have mentioned that before. Again, mega cute. So then I peel it off and my image was completely protected. So this is also something great to use if you're going to make something look like it's stacked. You know, let's say you have like a lot of cupcakes or something like that, and you want to make a lot of them, you don't want them to overlap each other. Cut a couple masks and then you can protect the images as you basically stamp over them. So now I'm just going to add the sentiment in. I'm going to use a black piece of cardstock. This is the Gina K cardstock. It's so nice and thick. It's so pretty. Everything stamps so well. And I'm just going to heat emboss that in white so it really pops. And I'm going to trim it out so it just kind of hangs out on there. It pops out, but not too much. So we are going to cover up most of that background. I'm using my 3D foam squares here. You can use strips as well, or there's the larger 3D foam squares. All kinds of options to give your card panel that awesome height. And it's going to basically go onto that foiled piece. That foil is just going to frame our card. It's going to give that little extra pop that we need. I don't know, I just thought that foil was the perfect thing. It just kind of felt like it went with his little telescope, whatever you want to call it. I just felt like it all really worked together. So to finish everything off, I'm just using my Deco foil or the mixed media glue. It dries pretty clear. So I'm just going to add some sequins on there. And this glue is great. It really holds everything on. And I just use tweezers because if not, I get the glue all over my fingers. So tweezers work the best for me because sometimes I'm a little bit of a klutz. So there you can see that's the finished card, and this was the other one I did off camera. So I use the same stamp 2 different ways and the same foil 2 different cards. So thanks so much for stopping by today. I hope that you will use your EASY-CUT adhesive as a card base, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and I will see you out there. Thanks.